Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jarvis Escott with What's Happening in Birmingham. Today, I have the honor and pleasure of being with Mr. Raymond Johnson. This afternoon, he is a candidate for Jefferson County DA. Mr. Johnson, thank you for taking time out your busy schedule. I know this is a busy campaign and last couple of days, but I just want to sit down with you and give you an opportunity to speak with the voters and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Mr. Escott, I thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. First question is, why are you running for Jefferson County DA?
I want to bring some change and different programs to the district attorney's office. I want to make that office make sure that it is fair, it's offering fairness and equality to everyone who comes before that office, whether you are a victim, whether you're a defendant, a witness, a juror, whoever. It shouldn't matter your age, shouldn't matter your race, your sex. Everyone that comes before that office and is involved with that office receives fairness, equality, and equity.
What do you feel are the duties of a Jefferson County District Attorney?
Primarily, the district attorney is responsible for prosecuting cases, and there, primarily, it's going to be the felony offenses. That's the primary position of the district attorney. A lot goes into that, from prepping a case to preparing the case for trial, presenting the case for trial, working with the victims in the case, working with witnesses in the case, working on motions, and working with the court. That's generally the duties of the district attorney.
Okay. So what prior experiences or positions have prepared you for this position?
I'm glad that you asked that question. I feel that I'm the best qualified for this position because of my experiences. I have been practicing law for approximately almost 40 years now. In addition to that, as practicing law, I've been teaching law. Teaching constitutional law, civil rights law, voting rights litigation for approximately 30 years at Cumberland School of Law and Miles College, Miles School of Law. As a result of that, I've also been prosecuting cases as a federal prosecutor for 10 years. And then I've been working as a defense attorney, a public defender, working also as local counsel for the NAACP and the Legal Defense Fund. Those have been primarily my areas of practice, but I also practice in personal injury. I practice in education law as well. That type of balance makes me best suited for this position. You have to have that balance if you're going to represent everyone. And the prosecutor has to make sure that there's fairness to everyone, whether you're the defendant or whether you're a victim or whether you are representing the people of the state of Alabama. Everybody has to be represented fairly, and that's the goal. So with that balance, that balance of criminal defense, prosecutorial experience, and also civil rights experience, that civil rights experience is very, very important as a prosecutor. You have to know that in order to make sure that everybody is treated equally and fairly. You have to know that civil rights law and bring that to the table as a prosecutor.
Okay. I guess the next question I would ask you, what changes or programs would you like to see implemented if you're elected?
Based upon my experience, one of the things that I've noticed, especially of recent years, is that young adults, I see them prosecuted more and more. I see also where it affects them. They get involved in the system. It affects them, and it's something that stays with them for the rest of their life. For example, if an individual is stopped by a police officer today, and they find a marijuana cigarette on him or an opioid pill, he's going to be arrested. He's going to have to appear before a judge, get a court date, appear before a judge. Then he's in the system. He's involved in the criminal justice system. And today, our criminal justice system is, law enforcement is really trying to push and make sure that, look, let's get the people involved. Those who we want involved, get them involved in the criminal justice system. Monitor them through that criminal justice system. Correct any deficiencies through that criminal justice system. And that carries problems later on for that individual later in life. Even if they go to court and they win that case, or if, for example, they don't win it, or they decide they want to get into a program, or what have you, and they take a plea, or they're placed on probation, they're in the system. That affects them when they're seeking employment, when they're seeking housing, when they're trying to get purchase a home. If the background check has to be performed, yeah, that information comes up. In some counties, some cities, what they have, the law enforcement officer, he gives you a summons, but it's not a summons to court. It's a summons to appear before the district attorney. Mm-hmm. And you go before the district attorney. You meet with the district attorney, drug counselors. You meet also with your defense attorney. Mm-hmm. You sit down at a table, and if that person really, really wants help, they will get the help that they need. And they will design the programs that the person has to complete. Once that person graduates from those programs, drug treatment program, or for example, and once they complete that program, then their case is gone. Mm-hmm. Case is gone. The beauty of that particular program is that they were never arrested. Okay. They never had to appear in court. There's no court record of them participating in this particular program, and it's not something that will carry and stay with that person for the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. It's never recorded as a court case. That's the beauty of that program. So that's one of the programs. Another program, I'd like to increase community policing, but it has to be properly funded. It's one thing to say, well, we want to make sure that we have all law enforcement working together, working with counselors, social workers, and what have you. We're bringing those resources to the community. But if you don't have the resources, the funding to actually do that, it doesn't work. I want to bring in federal funding, state funding, mm-hmm. and municipal funding. Mm-hmm. I know and have seen the programs work. As a former federal prosecutor for 10 years, mm-hmm. yeah, I know the federal programs that are in existence and how the federal government can bring resources at a local level. Get all of those resources together, identify the areas that we have to work in more in the inner cities, and make sure that the resources go to that particular community fairly and equally, mm-hmm. and make sure that the help is going to be there. So that's another area. Another program is especially for, if you go down today to courthouse, you'll see, or go to the jail, mm-hmm. you'll see individuals who are waiting for trial. Not just days, but months, even some people longer than a year, waiting for their trial. Mm-hmm. They're in custody. I would make sure that and monitor who's in custody, how long it's taken their case to go to trial, why is it taking so long, making sure that that individual gets a trial as soon as possible, and make sure as a result of that, when you do that, it takes away the opportunity for witnesses to disappear. Okay. You don't have witnesses disappearing. Sometimes the defense wants that, but at the same time, it may not be in the best interest of the government. It may not be in the best interest of the prosecutor. So we've got to monitor those cases and make sure that people are just not languishing in jail. They should be doing other things besides staying in jail. We have an overpopulation in our jails today, and it does not need to continue.
Well, that's an excellent question, like you just said and mentioned. So I know, not trying to do like a pop quiz, but how long are you estimating people right now is spending in the Jefferson County Jail before they even come up to trial? So
it depends. It really depends. They try to make sure that those who are in custody mm-hmm. receive priority over mm-hmm. those cases where a person is not in custody. Mm-hmm. And it depends upon the offense. It depends upon whether that person can make bond or bail or what have you. Sometimes it's bond, and it could be bail, but it just depends upon what the charge is. But we've got to monitor those cases with individuals in custody and make sure that they're getting to court on time. In addition to that, we got to make sure that we don't have people in jail who should not be in jail. If they have a mental issue, a mental illness problem, mm-hmm. And that's the reason that they're mm-hmm. in jail, we got to work with that and resolve that and make sure that they're just not going back and forth to jail mm-hmm. Because of that mental illness. And that's happening a lot. But we can't resolve mental illness in the jails. We don't have the budget for it, we don't have the personnel, and we don't have the expertise in our jail system to deal with that issue.
Okay. Well, this campaign season has been very competitive, and I guess across all the races, whether it's judge, state representative, even in your race. What are some things voters should look for or qualifications when they decide to go next Tuesday and choose who should be Jefferson County?
They should decide the race based upon who is the best qualified for the position. This is not a best liked person, who's the best liked person for this particular position. It's not a personality contest. The district attorney is not one of these positions where everyone loves. Every decision he or she makes is that someone's going to like and someone's going to not like. So we've got to make sure that if we're looking at this position, look to see who's the best qualified, who has the most experience that they can bring to the district attorney's office. Can they bring the prosecutorial experience? Can they bring the defense experience? Can they bring that civil rights experience? Look at who is best qualified. I was taught at an early age that you have to make sure everyone's treated equally and fairly. My father was a civil rights attorney. He's a civil rights attorney. He taught me how to practice law, and he made sure I knew civil rights law. He was by the way, he was original Tuskegee Airman. He knew how to fight. Those are some of the qualities that you want to make sure that you have in a district attorney. Someone who has the most experience, variety of experiences that they can bring to the office, someone who is going to be a fighter for the people, and somebody who is going to make sure that there's fairness, equality, and equity that applies to everyone that goes before the district attorney.
Okay, well, let me kind of say the second question. Why are you the person for that job?
The reason that I'm the best qualified, because I have the most experiences to bring to that office. The criminal defense, the prosecutorial experience, the civil rights experience, being a plaintiff's attorney, all those things factor in to make it the most well-balanced district attorney. And I bring those experiences. I'm the only candidate that's running for this position that has those experiences. Over 39 years, bringing those experiences to the office.
So if you had to rank them, they want to put you on the spotlight, all your experiences, which one in law would you rank the most? I know you spoke about teaching.
It's hard to say. You learn over years, and each case is different. But the fact that I'd say the prosecutorial is at the top of the list, high at the top of the list. But the criminal defense is also. You got to make sure that defendants that everything is fair as it relates to them presenting the case, so that the defense attorney is able to present their case in chief to the court, to the jury. That's going to be important. And then the civil rights experience. One thing that you'll find in every community that you visit within Jefferson County, they want to make sure that law enforcement is doing a good job. If a law enforcement officer, police officer violates someone's civil rights, they're going to want to make sure that police officer also is going to be examined and looked at by the district attorney's office. There has to be transparency there. And I've been talking about this during the entire election. We've got to have that transparency there so that the people are confident that police officer, his case is just not going to be swept under the rug. The district attorney is going to look at it. There may be a peer committee that's going to look at that, involving individuals within the community, law enforcement and non-law enforcement individuals, and make sure that case is going to, if it needs to go to the grand jury, it'll go to the grand jury, but it will receive fair treatment through that entire process. And the people will be confident in knowing that if I'm the district attorney, yes, we will examine those cases very, very carefully. And that's so the civil rights aspect of that comes into play as well, because as a federal prosecutor, I prosecuted law enforcement officers who were violating the civil rights of individuals who they were supposed to be serving. So I've done that, I know how to do that, and I will continue to do that in the future.
Okay. Well, next Tuesday, June the 5th, is the election. Any final thoughts you would like the voters to know about you, and if they want to get in contact with your campaign?
Yes, voters, what I would say to you is please go to the polls, vote on June 5th, take other individuals with you. Everything that I've been saying thus far means nothing if you don't go to vote. So it's important that you do vote. And remember, the district attorney's race is not a popularity contest. It's not a personality contest. It's who is the best qualified to be district attorney. And based upon my experiences in my practice of law over almost 40 years, I feel I know I am the best qualified to be your next district attorney.
Well, thank you, Mr. Johnson, for your time. Good luck next Tuesday. And for more information, please check out my website, whatshappenedbirmingham.com. Thank you all. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.